everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talking Tongue, the weekly quarantine show where I get to talk to my friends near and far to talk about the movies, the TV shows, the video games, the sports. Just kidding. We never talk about sports on the show. I can barely play sports. I can play ultimate frisbee. I played squash against this one person that's my guest today. I've won a few times at most against this person, but I bet I can beat them again. This person, way all over in Ottawa, Ontario, a place that I haven't been in over a year because of the stupid pandemic. I'm talking about hip hop legend, Stenley Philippe.
What's up? It's Dizzy.
Stenley, I'm so happy that you're here in the pod cavern once again, and this time virtually, but you know what? The people missed you.
No, and I miss the people. It's been a long time coming. It's been a long time since we've seen each other or talked to each other. And I just want to say, Tuong, you're looking really good, looking healthy.
Really?
That ladder behind it really does bring out your eyes. So it's wow. It's just great. It's great to see you.
Yeah, thanks. It's Laura's ladder, so I'm glad that it compliments me just like Laura does, I suppose.
Oh, yeah. Well played. Nice.
Yeah, the ladder of my heart. This analogy's falling apart. Stenley, how have you been? Like, some people haven't heard your voice and will never on Talking Tongue, surely, but like you've been on several episodes of ranking shit to care about for school, back to school. We did one episode on that. A couple Marvel things. We used to see every single Marvel movie when it dropped. But you know, they haven't heard you on Talking Tongue. So why don't you introduce to the people who you are and what you're all about?
Yeah. So hi everyone, Stenley Philippe, aka Stizzy. I live in Ottawa. I'm from Toronto, so I have a bit of the GTA arrogance to me, but I'm trying to get rid of it, which is good. And I work at a university in the capital, and just been having a lot of awesome conversations during this awful, horrific, too long pandemic. And but we're really happy to be able to talk to all of you, because I'm a fan of the pod cavern. I'm a fan of Talking Tongue, and I'm a fan of Tongue himself. So very my God,
Stenley, you're such a positive person. I was so happy to reach out to you because I'm like, I need someone who will stroke my ego for free, and and Stenley does that
for free.
For free. Oh, I'm sorry, I have to pay you. Oh no, I have no money. It's podcasting. You know, I just lose money.
I get
it. Stenley, I'm so happy you're here now. You know, life is hard, like you said. Like, it is a shitty time. The pandemic has never been worse. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's like, oh, there's a vaccine, but there's a variant, but it's coming soon. Oh, but now it's delayed. It's like I don't know how to feel. Oh, but now it's a lockdown, but we're opening schools again. It's like, well, I'm so confused. I just want this part of my life to be over. But we don't have to get into that aspect of it. I really just want to reach out to you and talk about, like, what are the things that keep you going with all of that chaos that, like, we have to live through on a day-to-day.
Yeah, well, so it's really interesting. Like, we tend to kind of spend a lot of our normal days around our immediate communities. So people we work with, we live with, we interact with on a daily or weekly basis. But then there's like other parts of your life that are equally as important, but you don't get as much kind of FaceTime, for lack of a better word. But since the pandemic, one of the coolest things that's happened is I got a group of friends from high school that we started doing weekly Jeopardy nights every Friday. And cool. It's been like, honestly, it's been the coolest thing, because I mean, A, like I'm pretty good at it, but B, we kind of reconnected and rekindled our friendship. And these are people I grew up with, that I grew old with, but then grew kind of apart from, because I'm in Ottawa. And I've seen them more in the last kind of year than I had in the previous 5. So that's been like one of the few kind of silver linings of this pandemic, is having this kind of rebirth of our friendship. So I'm hoping that people are kind of taking advantage of this really horrible kind of awkward time, extended period of time, and just kind of reconnecting with folks that they haven't seen in a while.
It's true. I feel the same way, where, man, it's just as years go on, you start losing touch with some people, and it's never out of, hates, or, well, I shouldn't say that. It's never a lot of my friendships with people. We, Stenley and I were really popular people. We have a lot of friends. No, but it's just one of those things where it's hard to keep up with everyone, even though you love a lot of people. Like I adore and appreciate so many people that I don't get to tell them enough. Maybe I get to tell them by liking their post, I guess, but it's like, it's hard to keep up with everyone. But I've been finding like I'm starting to also reconnect with just certain pockets of people, or like when Animal Crossing came out last year, I was like talking to people that I haven't talked to in a long time. It was a really cool age of just being like, oh yeah, we're still friends. And let's talk about this for a while. And there's like this really great like reconnection aspect of it. And then, it kind of fizzles out again and it ebbs and flows. I guess I don't really know what I'm trying to say with that, except that like, yeah, you should reconnect with some people.
Like I imagine like the Spanish flu, okay? And like it's 1918 and people are dealing with this crazy pandemic, and they tell themselves, you know what, I'm going to pick up my pen and I'm going to reconnect with my pen pal. But they have to wait like months to hear back from them. Whereas we can literally talk to each other every single day through like Zoom or whatever.
Yeah.
So it is kind of cool. And I think like you said, like people kind of fall in and out of your life, and it isn't out of like malicious thought or for the most part. But there are cases where like people just don't serve a purpose, and that's cool. Like my grade 1 teacher I haven't talked to since grade 1. But she served the purpose, and I'm super thankful for that. So it's not always kind of like a big falling out thing. But it's been really great to reconnect. And we made a pact that even when we are all vaccinated and we can kind of meet in person, that we're not going to do it. We're just going to stay virtual with this Jeopardy thing every Friday night until at least the end of the year. So
yeah, I think that's a really, really cool thing. I mean, like, I feel like you might get bored of Jeopardy eventually. It's a very, very mediocre game, but
yes,
unless you're really good at trivia, which you are. So maybe you feel really good about that.
Yeah, and we customize the boards, and honestly, like we end up just like talking about random stuff for like 2 out of 3 hours, and then we're like, oh right, this Jeopardy thing. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, those are the best types of online games to play with people, I think. The ones that are like, the game doesn't really matter. Yeah. There's like really no stakes except for let's catch up. Yeah. Stenley, we have so much to talk about this week, and it's such a weird time to record. Normally we record this on a Sunday. I'm breaking the fourth wall here when we record. But it's strange because we record this like in the afternoon on a Sunday, but this evening is literally the Super Bowl when we know a ton of commercials are going to drop tonight. And by the time this episode releases the next day, they're going to be like, why didn't you talk about any of those commercials? Well, I'll tell you why. Super Bowl hasn't happened yet. So maybe a lot of the stories that we're going to cover for this week are going to be like super irrelevant compared to the trailers that come out this evening. But let me tell you, whatever. I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Stenley has. I
did see the Will Ferrell. I think it's GM commercial, which was phenomenal.
Oh, amazing! I know a bunch of Marvel shit must be coming.
Yeah, 100%.
Like and that would have been great for us to talk about because we love this type of stuff. But oh well. Okay, so let's go into the pop culture headlines that I pulled that I'm looking at for the first time over at IGN.com. Right. And the first one that I see here is there is a Frasier revival reportedly in the works at Paramount Plus. Did you like Frasier growing up?
I missed the Frasier boat. Yeah, I like the Cheers thing. Yeah, I was down with that, but Frasier unfortunately was just not my bag.
Yeah, I also not my bag, but the show aired for 11 seasons, which I didn't think it lasted that long. It's damn. I know Laura loves Frasier, loves it. And I never got into it because I'm like, is this supposed to be Friends? Is this supposed to be Seinfeld? It's neither.
and honestly, I think it's an extension of Cheers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about something different.
No, you're right. It's like a spin-off of Cheers.
Yeah.
And it's just why
I like Cheers. Like, I mean, like the song, but it's interesting that like all these things are coming back. Like Saved by the Bell came back, and I haven't watched it yet. Like the reboot.
Yep.
And I don't know why I've like hesitated to watch it, but then like Screech died last week. R.I.P. Screech.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like I need to watch it just for Screech's sake, but then Screech isn't in it.
Yeah, well, that could be our next news story here, but like the Paramount Plus is something that I even know was a streaming service coming, to be honest with you. It sounds like it's a rebranding of CBS All Access, which that sounds a little familiar. It's like it's all getting muddy now. There's just a lot going on with streaming
There really
services.
is.
Yeah. And that's probably why you didn't watch Saved by the Bell, because you had to sign up for Peacock.
Well, the thing is, I think it's on either Netflix or Amazon Prime, but can I ask you a question? What's your go-to streaming site now? Like, what do you watch the most?
Oh, I juggle a lot, I guess. Like Netflix, Prime, and Disney are like the three. We own Crave, which costs the most, and I probably use that the least. Which I kind of don't love. But there's always like one or two things on Crave that I'm like, well, all the HBO stuff's on there. That's the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm digging Prime a lot these last few months. I think it's because I've been watching The Expanse.
Okay.
Which is just a phenomenal show. And I just find like they have a lot of, and I watched One Night in Miami. That was so on good. Prime, which is so good. So I feel like I'm like, should I cancel my Netflix? But then it's like, are you removing yourself from culture if you don't have a Netflix or someone's account?
Well, there's just so much on Netflix. I know some people are like, there's not enough on Netflix. I don't know if that's true. There's a lot on Netflix, and there's a lot of original content. Like just so much that's like, oh my God, like there's Netflix originals like literally every week. It's crazy.
Totally.
Yeah. But we use Disney Plus a lot because we do Disney dummies around here. So it's kind of, and like, WandaVision. So like, come on. We don't have to talk about WandaVision except for like, it's so good. Stenley, that's give me your 3-sentence thoughts on WandaVision here.
It's just phenomenal. I didn't really love the first 2 episodes, but ever since episode 3, it's exactly what Marvel does. Like Marvel just knows how to play with your emotions and they know how to like provide twists that you might have expected, but even if you did, you're like, holy shit, that was so great. So amazing.
They make you care about these 2 characters, especially like Vision, who like was cool, but like he was never like, you never really got to know him through those movies. And like in these like 5 episodes we've seen, you're like, oh my God, like you get to know these characters on another level. And it's so cool.
So cool.
It's so cool.
And it's so nostalgic. I mean, like we're talking about Frasier, like they're taking us through TV time, right? Like a time traveling through the 50s and the 60s, and now we're in the 80s. And it's just an amazing. I just hate that it's once a week. Like give us the whole thing.
Oh, but it's so good because of that. It's just like they let you sit on it for a while, They let people like talk about it and theorize about it, which keeps the discussion going. Because if you drop it all at once, I think it's less effective. I know there's a lot of people who now we're actually talking about WandaVision, but I know there's some people who say the first 3 episodes are slow. I think that's fine. I mean, like I really enjoyed them because they really play hard on those 50, 60 tropes of TV and stuff like that. But it would have been a disservice if it ramped up too quick, I think. Like right. You found out I won't spoil it for the people who want to watch it, but like if they introduce like the wrinkle, I guess, in the whole thing, like they reveal what's actually happening. And if you got that in the first episode, the whole show feels way less if that happened,
Yes, I agree with you 100%, for sure. And also it's good because like Marvel has been away, or we've been away from Marvel for over a year now. And so,
year and a half. It's been a year and a half since Spider-Man Far From Home dropped.
Yeah.
I was looking at a graphic today on IGN actually, and it was like, here are all the things that are coming in 2021. I'm like, holy shit, like this is like they're like overcompensating. It's like, oh, we've been gone for a year and a half. Literally, here's like 6 to 8 projects at once, and I'm like, my brain is melting. There's like maybe too much, but I kind of love it because I'm a sucker for that stuff.
Yes. No, I can't wait. I can't wait to see what they do with Falcon, and I can't wait to see. I mean, Spider-Man 3 is going to be.
Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the crazy thing about that one is that it's basically dropping as soon as WandaVision's over.
Totally. Yeah. Like I think the week after.
And it's like, Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll take it.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyways, that's WandaVision. I didn't mean to get into that, but I love the show so much right now. It's like my favorite thing right now.
Yeah. Agreed.
So we had Dustin Diamond did die at the age of 44, famously played Screech in Saved by the Bell, played Screech again in the new Saved by the Bell when they kind of soft rebooted it.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin Diamond, complicated personality, I think,
Yeah.
he like I don't know enough about his history except that he's really well beloved from his Saved by the Bell era, but he's also gone to jail for I'm not going to get into that, but like a couple bad things, I would say.
Yeah.
And then he did a lot of comedy and improv as time moves forward, and now he's died at a very young age. I would say it's complicated, my feelings on that.
Yeah, it's really complicated, and you really kind of realize that fame does have a price, and especially for these younger actors that maybe they may not have the proper training, or they don't necessarily understand, and their families don't understand the world that they're being introduced to, and to taste that level of success and to be typecast in that kind of character, it's almost kind of predictable that you're going to want to then flip in real life to be anything but Screech.
Yeah.
And the opposite of Screech, unfortunately, is a lot of the things that we saw play out with Dustin Diamond. So, it's kind of sad, and it makes you kind of think about the childhood kind of memories you have with these TV characters and how they're not necessarily those people in real life.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder of yes, you can like characters on a TV show, but those are characters on a TV show. You gotta draw the line, because I don't know, we don't have to get into it. There's a plenty of great TV characters that are played by really shitty people, unfortunately. Not that Dustin Diamond was completely shitty person. It's just that he's a complicated person, and it makes you really think, I think.
Yeah, totally.
Back to Marvel, because somehow we can't get away from it, is that there's a Wakanda TV series reportedly being worked on by director Ryan Coogler.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they build this world without Black Panther, which can be done, but you also have to make sure that Black Panther and Chadwick as a person is still really tied into this kind of community. But I'm all for more Wakanda. It's an ideal world, one that I think we aspire to mimic at some point in the real world, and it'd be cool to kind of see and dig into some of the smaller communities within Wakanda and what the kind of political scene looks like, and the cultural differences between the various communities. And Ryan Coogler is a genius, so whatever he gives, I'll consume.
I completely agree. I have nothing to add to that. I'm very excited to see. Wakanda is I guess I do have stuff to add to it. Wakanda is such a vast world within a world. It's always been the hidden world, almost it's like an Atlantis of the Marvel universe. I mean, Atlantis is too, but that's not introduced in the MCU yet. And it's kind of there is lots to explore of this place that was hidden from the rest of the world and is now just being discovered. It's we only got a taste of it in Black Panther, and we barely got any taste of it in Infinity War, where it's kind of taking place there, but it's not really. There's a war happening there, that's it. I'd like to see more of the technology and the relationships that go on, because it seems exciting.
There's so much. And Infinity War, we got to see a big open space in Wakanda. It could have been anywhere.
Yep.
But it had to be in Wakanda because it's Wakanda. But anyway, so I think it'll be fun to see them, dive into more of the world. And I'm all for it, man. Just give it to me. Give it to me right now.
Yeah, I'm in. I mean, there's never been a Marvel thing, and this is really telling of me and you probably, where it's just they'll announce anything, I'm like, give it to me. I don't even know what it is. It's Captain America brushing his teeth. I want it.
It's literally Marvel presents ... Oh my God, it's gonna be so good. You don't even know what it is.
It's hard. But there's a difference, right? I feel I had an internal argument with myself playing it out of those people who are all Marvel movies are the same. I actually read a comment about that this morning, and it just drives me nuts. I had to shut it down because I'm just I hate this idea of you think it's so easy to make one of these movies, because it's not. Like, of course, it's very popular, and I think it's one of those things when something gets too popular, you have people hating on it.
Yes.
But there is like there's like a secret sauce to Marvel content that only Marvel has cracked. And to say that all superhero stuff is the same is really doing Marvel a disservice, because like you look at like the recent X-Men movies, look at the DC movies, like DC has gone, on and off better, but like clearly it's not the same success. And why is that? Like, if it was so easy, then everything would be a success,
Yeah. World building is never an easy thing. And for them to do it and to pivot, right? Like, it wasn't a guarantee that they were going to get access to Spider-Man, but they were able to pivot that. And now that they have, the X-Men, and we're, spoiler alert, we're kind of seeing a little bit through WandaVision how that might play out and how that might be introduced. And so,
oh my God,
it's just good stuff. Can I ask you real quick about Zack Snyder's Justice League? Are you
that's so funny. I was literally going to bring that up to you. Unfortunately, we have to keep talking about the Zack Snyder. Stenley, this is no joke. Probably in the last 10 weeks of Talking Tongue, there's been a Zack Snyder cut story, and they're all very minor. Like this one, which is like, the Snyder cut is now rated R. It's like, okay, great, just give it to us or something. Or the story before that was like, it turns out the Zack Snyder cut is going to be 4 hours just straight through. It's like why does there have to be a story every week on the Snyder cut?
Yeah,
it's and they're all like really small details too. I feel like there's the hype behind the Snyder cut has gotten to a level where I'm just like, there's no way it can live to even Zack Snyder's ambition of what this movie should be. I want to hear from you though. Like, are you excited about the Snyder cut?
So I'm pumped about it, but I really think that the people who wanted it the most are going to be the first to criticize it once they get it, because fundamentally it's still Justice League, and the movie itself, I mean, I thought it was enjoyable, but was it memorable? Am I rewatching it every year? No. And so this cut will feel different. I'm sure it'll feel really different. Mm-hmm. But 4 hours of digesting Zack Snyder type movie filming or making is a lot. And so I don't know. I'm optimistic only that it's going to be released during a pandemic, and so I have nothing but time.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people are going to actually receive it in the same way. And then do we get like a Whedon cut afterwards if we hate the
God,
Zack
I
Snyder
doubt
cut?
that. There's so much crap around Joss Whedon right now with Ray Fisher and stuff. There is no way they're going to touch that again. Yeah, it's I just wanted to come out and just be over this hump, like I will watch it because out of like an extreme curiosity. This has been like a huge thing in the making, for better or for worse. Mm-hmm. And the reason why Zack Snyder dropped out in the first place, it was for horrific reasons, like it was like a really sad thing that he had to drop out and not make the movie he wanted. So I'm glad on a creative, artistic level, he's making the movie he wants. I'm just not convinced he really understands these characters, to be honest with you. I feel like he doesn't really get Batman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again, it's hard. People think it's so easy to put, although the Batman that's coming out next year, I believe, looks phenomenal.
That looks great, but nothing to do with Snyder. So
no, yeah. So it's going to be. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be. I mean, it'll give us a lot to dissect, and I mean, I'll probably revisit, Batman versus Superman, and just kind of revisit that world and see what it was like. Again, and I wasn't a big hater of it. Like I thoroughly enjoyed it, to be honest.
Which one, BVS?
I enjoyed BVS, Man of Steel. I even enjoyed Justice League. I think it's just not great. It was good.
What about Suicide Squad?
Yeah, that was shit.
Yeah, okay, good. I'm just like, what's Stenley's bar here? Yeah. Those movies they're I like Man of Steel. Like the first, most of Man of Steel is like really good, and then like somewhere along the way it kind of loses me, but it's still good. And then BVS was like really long, and full of like, why did you make this choice? But it's cool to see Batman and Superman fight. but also they didn't fight long enough. So why is this movie called BVS? It's just, it's just weird stuff. And Justice League, I'll be also one of the few people to say, like, when I watched it, I was like, this is kind of fun. But I've never watched it a second time, nor do I want to. I guess I'll have to watch the Snyder Cut, and we'll see what the difference is,
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah. And my last story, I shouldn't have ended on a downer, but Christopher Plummer died, which age of 91, like that's a sad one. So yeah, what were you? Did you watch a lot of Christopher Plummer stuff growing up?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot, but obviously, like I've seen him in countless movies, and I think it's one of these like it's okay deaths. Like he was 91, he didn't have any like big scandals. Like he just was a regular, really good actor that presumably lived a pretty full life, and then unfortunately he had to pass. But he left his mark. So I don't think it's that sad if in the most respectful way.
Yeah, you know what? I completely agree with you. It's not a death that was a sudden death. It was not a death that was he died of COVID, or actually, I don't really know how he died, but it sounds like it was natural causes or something like that. But it wasn't like he was, I shouldn't say like he wasn't murdered or something like that. But like it was, he lived till 91 and he had a full life of all these movies. Like it's really great to look back on. Like he did Up, he did National Treasure, he did 12 Monkeys. He was in Knives Out, Sound of Music. Like it's just like he's just everywhere, and it's like really great to look back on his catalog being like, yes, this guy, lots of good stuff here.
100%. He's what Hollywood is supposed to kind of look like. Just a really good actor, a lot of cool movies, liked by all, and rest in peace.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Stenley. Of course, we're not here today just to talk about news stories. It's not just a news podcast. We got to talk about a movie. Isn't.
Yes, we will.
We will. Stenley, you got to pick the movie for the week. So you want to set it up and tell us what we watched this week?
So when I was doing the old quarantine thing, and this was way back in March of 2020, I was talking to some of my friends, and we were chatting about different things on Netflix. And a friend of mine was like, "Hey, Sten, have you ever seen the movie Dope?" And I was like, "Well, no, but it sounds kind of dope." And he said, "You should watch it because you will really appreciate the music, the character development, the storyline, the comedy." And I was like, "I don't know, man. You don't have the most credibility, but I'll give Dope a chance."
You said that to your friend?
I did. We're no longer friends. And surprisingly, Dope was in fact dope.
Great.
So let's talk about Dope.
Think you're gonna get into Harvard?
I'm from a poor, crime-filled neighborhood, raised by a single mother, don't know my dad, blah, blah. It's cliche.
Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Malcolm Adekanbi. I'm a straight-A student with nearly perfect SAT scores.
You probably got like one of them photogenic brains.
You mean photographic memory?
What'd I just say?
I mean, yeah, you said it. Yeah, just reiterating. I play in a punk band with my friends, and I'm a 90s hip-hop geek.
Let's talk about Dope 2015, directed by Rick. Might fuck this up. Rick Famuyiwa. You want to give it a shot, Stenley? Do you know?
Rick Famuyiwa. Let's try that.
Yeah. And this person has done, I was just looking at like the credibility of this person. They've done a lot of things that maybe I haven't seen before. I'm looking at Brown Sugar, Our Family Wedding. They've done Dope, The Chai. They did the pilot for that. And they've done a couple episodes of The Mandalorian, which is pretty cool. Yeah. They seem to like this directing style for this movie is incredible, but this person also wrote this movie as well. And I think to give like, we are going to spoil things like we usually do in Talking Tongue, but like the summary of this movie is about these three kids who are nerdy, geeky kids who are like, they love hip hop music of the past, of the 90s. They dress like they're in the 90s, but it is present day. They live in a really shitty neighborhood who bully them. People get killed. And there's like drug deals going on and stuff like that. And they get in a position where they go to a party and they end up with like this bag full of dope that they are essentially forced to sell. And if it sounds like a movie log line of something you've seen before, like that in itself sounds like, oh, I've seen that movie many, many, many times before. Like geeky kids, they can't get the girl, they get bullied, and now they're forced into like this tough guy situation where they have to sell drugs. It's like, that sounds like a movie you've seen before. But because of the way this is written and directed, it is such a unique perspective on that whole trope. And I really also enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, it was so, I mean, from the opening scene where I think it was Naughty by Nature was playing, and you're right away in this world. And I mean, I'm an older gentleman. I grew up in the 90s, and I remember hearing all these songs that were being played, and they really shaped my childhood. So just having that soundtrack alone made this movie stand out from the other kind of typical flicks. And I think they did kind of play around with some themes that you'll find in most of these type of movies, but they also kind of allowed you to reconsider our kind of thoughts surrounding identity, nostalgia, belonging, growth. Like there's just so much that happens in this movie from an internal perspective that I absolutely loved.
You're right. And like, that's kind of what I was setting up in that way. That's just like on paper, it sounds like a movie you've seen before, but when you watch it, it subverts a lot of tropes where it begins in one way, and then you're like, oh, I never really considered this perspective of it, because it is a comedy movie for sure, but there's drama that happens in it too, which really like give it its heart and the layers of this movie that go beyond of being like, ooh, this is just like a raunchy teen adventure, because it is, but there's so much more than that too.
Yeah, and it's fun watching it in 2021 because or 2020 when I first watched it, because you're thinking about how do we operate now, social media, TikTok, like all this kind of stuff, and they alluded to some of that in the way that they sold the drugs and the way that they promoted themselves. There was a lot of kind of early versions of social media that you saw in this movie, and it's actually kind of cool to think about, like in the 5-year span, how much our lives are dependent on that now. But the way that they utilize it to kind of sell their product was really cool too. So I can talk about this movie for hours, and we will talk about it for a little bit at least.
Yeah, not hours, but a little bit for sure. Let's start off with maybe like celebrating the cast of this movie, because this cast is very, very strong. Actually, I didn't know this until I looked this up just now, but this was produced by Forrest Whitaker, which is like, oh wow, I didn't know that. But this is like, I know Shameik Moore just from Into the Spider-Verse. I've known he's done other things before, but I never actually watched anything that Shameik Moore has been. And when I watch this movie, like, first of all, he's incredible in this movie, but also I see Miles Morales, like the beginnings, like this is like, oh, like he's the perfect fit for Miles Morales that came a couple years later. I can see why you made this connection.
Totally. Yeah. He's such a cool lead actor. I mean, he's such an emotional actor too. He's able to evoke a lot of, positive emotions too. And some of the situations where you would think, oh my gosh, like I feel really kind of bad, or I'm scared, but the way that he kind of conveys his character, there's a levity to it across most scenes in this movie that makes him a perfect fit for a character like Miles, for sure.
Yeah. We have A$AP Rocky is in this movie.
Yes.
We have Zoe Kravitz. We have Blake Anderson from Workaholics, which I thought was a really fun choice. He always plays like some stoner weird guy anyways, but he's always so good at playing it. That scene, there's a running thing where he wants to say the N-word, and I'm like, oh my. First of all, can I just say the N-word is said, I wanted to do a counter on it. Like it is said so many times in this movie, which makes sense because like where they're from, like it's a really rough neighborhood.
Yeah.
But holy shit, like I would say that word is said almost every second sentence of the entire movie.
Maybe third sentence. On average. And Blake Anderson's character makes a point of being like, I should be able to say it. Like, you guys are my like friends and I'm from around here. Why can't I say it? And like one of the main three characters like slaps him. And there's a whole conversation of being like, give me permission to say it. I love when he calls out the one character. He's like, hey, you're you're not even black. Like, how come you're saying it? It's like, hey, I'm 14% African American or African. And then he's like, wait, well, I'm probably 14% too. It's just like, it's again, a really kind of serious conversation, but the way they play that out was just, you're just laughing along. And it's a great way of demonstrating like kind of the levity of the movie.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, there's a lot of scenes that are like really funny, but they're so sharp the way it's written. Like that one, like it's a silly conversation, but that conversation exists in the real world. You know it does. So it's like, but they toe a line of being like, hey, this is really important, but also like, let's have some fun with it too. That guy, Tony Revolori, played the Flash Thompson in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So we have two Spider-Man-like people in this, which is great.
Phenomenal. And you mentioned A$AP Rocky. Is there a cooler guy in the world than A$AP Rocky? Like, that guy just oozes coolness.
Yeah, and also scary in this movie. Like, I'd be like, oh, there's the tough guy act. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to mess with A$AP Rocky. Beat me up.
But also, you're like, man, I want to like hang out with A$AP because he's just so damn cool.
Well, I wanted to be like friends with him so I wouldn't get beat up. Like, I'd have to get in with him. Lakeith Stanfield's in this movie too, which I love seeing him pop up and stuff. And he doesn't play a big role in this, but it's just like his presence is really good in this movie too, because he's also a bully, but he's a bully that doesn't like as soon as a gun's pointed at him, he's just like, oh shit, like I was just playing, man. It's like, oh, that's the line.
Yeah, it's all good until there's a gun in your face. Now you're like, actually, I'm not that much of a bully. I should step away.
Yeah, I'll go bully someone else, which I guess was a lesson for him.
But it's cool to kind of think about some of the actors that you like today, and I want to try to do this more, is rewatch some of their older kind of movies, and kind of see, because I mean, here's someone who's been in a lot of really good flicks since then, and we talked about Knives Out, for example, and to kind of rewatch some of his flicks and kind of think about, well, what type of choices does he make as an actor when choosing, certain scripts or certain movies and whatnot. So he's got a lot of credibility from that perspective.
Absolutely. Do you have any favorite moments in the film? Like, there's a lot of great scenes that I'm not going to recap for the people at home, especially I don't want to ruin it for people, although we will spoil a little bit. But is there stuff that really spoke out to you and being like, this is such a great scene?
Oh, wow. There are so many. I kind of liked the scene where he's talking to his guidance counselor about his Harvard application, and he wrote an essay about Ice Cube's song, Today Was a Good Day, and how the counselor right away dismissed it, but he's just like, no, like legitimately I did some research. There's a lot of like empirical evidence behind the stuff that I'm going to kind of explain in this paper. And I just think it kind of broke that idea, the identity of what someone should say about themselves when they're trying to enter spaces that weren't necessarily traditionally designed for people like, quote unquote, like them.
Right.
And so that was an early kind of indication of the type of commentary that they were going to be making throughout the movie. So I kind of like that they set the scene with that particular scene.
Yeah, that one's good. Oh, man, there's just so many that I'm just like trying to replay it in my mind. I write a lot of notes when I watch a movie for Talking Tongue, but they're not real notes. They're kind of like reminders of what happens. And some of these notes don't make sense. I'll be honest. I wrote LMAO, workaholics guy. LMAO, am I technically a virgin? LMAO, am I technically gay? Like I think that's the thing that like, hilarious. Like Blake Anderson says. Like, he has a really weird like stoner conversation. There's like all of the stuff with Lily. Like is just really, really good in this movie. And then we also have like we get some nudity in this movie too, actually. And it's like, oh my God, you got like the actress like peeing in a bush, and that's like a really funny scene. Like, there's lots going on, I guess, with Shameik Moore and that character, because he's a virgin, so he also wants to get laid. Like that trope is true, but he doesn't actually get laid in the movie. So
he doesn't. I also enjoyed this scene at Lily's house, or her dad's house, and her brother was playing his new song to the three main characters. and he has this kind of aversion for the letter C because of the Crip gang that he's, I guess, against or not with. And so they kind of took a moment to make fun of him for him not being able to say like hard C's, but soft C's, but in the hard C's, he's able to say. And it was just like a really kind of funny scene, a little back and forth. So
what I like about that in this movie is that this is what the thing that like subverts a little bit of expectation in the movie, because these characters come in low status, which means like they are the ones getting bullied. They are like the geeky kids who, you know, they're like, oh, we've never gone through this before, never sold dope, and like they are like the bottom, and they have a band. Ooh, look, they have a band. But there's like things like that where they come in like together as a team to just freely speak their minds in a confident way, which is kind of cool. But there's also another scene in the movie where it subverts in the way that their band isn't shitty. Like people like their band, which is cool, because usually you'd be like, okay, you have these geeky kids, they're not popular, they have a band, and usually the next trope is that band sucks.
Yes.
But no, and instead, this band is good.
Yes.
And they get popular. The band is legit. Yeah, it's legit. They just haven't been noticed, and they know they're good. And then that scene you're talking about, like, they record a song, and it's like, it's really cool in that way, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Again, it's like, it reminded me of 21 Jump Street, where when they go back to high school and all the jocks are the like outsiders and all the nerds have taken over kind of the cool status in school. Like these guys, you know, although they are nerds and geeks and they are outsiders in many ways, you're right, they still have a real kind of level of coolness. Like the main kind of love interest or female character in the movie, played by Zoe Kravitz, she's into the geek.
Yeah, she's into Malcolm.
She's into Malcolm. Yeah, and she kind of subtly pursues that throughout the movie. So
I don't know if it's subtly. It happens pretty quick, but the movie is short.
Yes.
Because at the beginning of the movie, she's like, "Oh, look at this kid. Why'd they send a kid over here?" And then the next scene, she's like, "Maybe I'll go to prom with you."
The end. That's the movie, guys. That's why I love this so much.
No, there's more to it than that. But I did like Zoe Kravitz's character in this. I thought it was good. There's like a really good scene too, where like this is like one of those more like insightful things where like Shameik Moore is a geek, right? And he does something kind of out of character, but maybe not because of the place that he lives in, which is like I guess like he starts insinuating how she feels about the situation. He's like, oh, you're coming to me because he told you to come, or your ex-boyfriend, ASAP Rocky, told you to come to me and check up on me, and you don't actually want to be here because of me, and I can't believe you're doing this. And he's making a lot of these grand assumptions that I would assume that a low status character wouldn't do in this way, because like, you know, Shameik Moore is a pretty nice guy, but in this moment, he kind of reverts into this like toughness, I'm being tough because that's what I got to do in this moment, and I'm being like insecure. And it's a really like interesting scene that plays out where she's like, you're an asshole. Like I'm here for you. And it's quite something.
Yeah. The hardening of one's character that happens when you're trying to survive. Right. And a lot of these characters, when they play out in other movies, you don't get to see the second part. You get to see the part where they are kind of tough and rude and mean and scary, but you don't see the reasons behind it. And for Shameik Moore, like Malcolm needed to be that because he was selling drugs, like his life was on the line, and he wasn't a guy that wanted to kind of stay in the hood per se. Like he was trying to get into Harvard. You know, and he realized that like the decisions that he had to make because of this kind of unlucky circumstance could put his dreams on the line. So he needed to be extra paranoid.
Right.
But then by doing that, like you say, he then cast this kind of really kind of shitty perspective on this other character who is trying to do the same thing. Like they're both trying to achieve their goals and dreams. Yeah. And the way that he treated her was very interesting for sure.
Yeah. I will say though, we have Rick Fox in this movie who plays the councilman. I guess he's like the big bad, if you will. He's the guy who's like, you have to sell this dope, and he has this like whole Amazon analogy and whatever. I will say this is the one character in the movie that completely almost broke it for me, I guess. No, it's not Rick Fox. It's someone else. It's Roger Guinevere Smith, I think. Yeah, he plays Austin Jacoby. I thought his acting was terrible. You don't know what it was. It was just like this weird, like he's trying to be sinister, but he's just, I don't know. It just felt so off. I'm not sure if you felt the same way or if it was just me.
Yeah, it felt maybe like overacted. You know, I don't know if he's necessarily the best character or person to play this kind of crime boss hidden as a Harvard admissions officer, pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of an awkward. But then it also played into kind of again the characteristics of someone who gets out of the hood and is successful.
Yeah.
And but in a really kind of bad way. Like yeah. I wouldn't give him an Oscar for that performance.
No, like his character serves a purpose. It's just like he does this weird eye stuff, and it's really hard to explain without you seeing the movie. But if you watch it, just watch out for like the guy who plays Austin Jacoby. He's the main bad guy, I guess you could say. And it's just so jarring the way he delivers his lines to Shameik Moore, because Shameik is so much better as an actor. So it's just like they're not playing on the same level here. Shameik just steamrolls I don't know. That's how I felt when I was watching it anyways.
Yeah, but the script for that scene was great, right?
The script is great.
About Amazon and CDs and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's good stuff.
Yes, exactly. Okay, what else did you want to talk about this movie before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, you know, and within a current lens, like identity, you know, I think we're really realizing the importance of not individualism, but individual growth and being able to cast your own kind of net and figure out what you collect when you're trying to build and develop your own personality, your own interests, your own dreams. And, you know, when at the end of the movie, when he rewrites his essay to get into Harvard, and he kind of describes two characters, and they're both him in the movie. And then he kind of says at the end, like, you know, now you're asking me to write this essay about why I want to get into Harvard, but if I was white, like, would you have to ask me? And it's just kind of, they played on the kind of the racial identity thing really well, I felt like, because it wasn't always kind of harping on the typical stereotypes. It was a lot of kind of self-analysis and a lot of kind of considering, you know, your various influential points that can create who you are. And then at what point can you break through that?
Yeah.
You know, at what point can you decide exactly who you're going to be and how you're going to walk this life? And I think that's like the big tone, the big message behind this movie is giving you the power to do just that.
Yeah, I really like that, even though I guess I didn't fully understand the cryptocurrency plan. Like, I guess like I kind of got it. Like, I was like, all you have to get is that it's a very smart plan and it works, but that's all you have to really get. But the technical stuff of it, I'm like, wait, how does that work? I guess I'm just trying to say I don't know a lot about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, and like in 2015, Bitcoin, nobody knew what Bitcoin really was about. So I think they were just kind of guessing and
yeah.
filling in whatever blanks to serve their purpose, right?
It felt like a Suits moment, where it's just like they're saying it in such a confident way that you're like, oh, I guess they're right. I guess they did something pretty smart here. But regardless of that, it's just like, yeah, I completely agree with everything you said, because like Shameik Moore's character, there's a huge growth that happens throughout the entire movie. And the movie is like an hour and a half. Like there is just so much going on to like the identity of this character and the nuance. And there's a lot of complications to his characters that make him very human. But at the very end of the movie, he presents in a really, like, that's probably like the very big climax at the end. And it's a big swing too, because when they start doing it, I'm like, ooh, like, is this too cheesy the way they're presenting it? Because the stylistic choices that you make here is a big swing. And luckily for me, it worked, because you have like Shameik Moore monologuing about the two people he is, and telling to the camera exactly that line about Harvard, and like, if I was white, would you have to even ask me that question? And I was like, is this gonna land? And it does. And I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
Which I was really happy about.
No, it was cool. And you know, we talked earlier about that scene where Keith Stanfield's character kind of faces a gun for the first time, and it's just like, whoa, like I'm not that kind of a gangster, but the person holding the gun is Malcolm, and it was awesome to see how, you know, in that moment he's shaking so much So the gun is actually shaking in his hand, and he isn't, although he is hardening, he's still in that moment kind of aware of himself and kind of in pleading, with the character saying, hey, please don't make me do this, because I clearly don't want to be that person, but I have to. And so it's just a really good kind of play on the duality of identity, who you are on the inside and who you need to portray on the outside for survival perspectives, for to fit in, to move along. It's just it really makes you think.
Yeah, and it's all wrapped up in this stylistic, punchy movie that has a lot of funny moments. Like, I mean, we talked a lot about the drama of this movie and the lessons to pull from this movie, which is insane. It's a comedy movie, for God's sakes, but like, that's how good this movie is, because it blends the two really well. It's a very well executed movie, and like, there's like some stylistic choices that I was like really appreciating, like the way they like. This felt really 2015 too, from when they made it, but the memes that they created, there's a scene where they show a bunch of memes about like Bitcoin and like all this other stuff, or like the night before party. And I'm like, wow, like how times have changed. Like, memes are still a thing, but the way they presented it was very that era.
Yeah, and I mean, most movies use music to storytell as well, but I can't undersell like how phenomenal the soundtrack is. Like, if you're a fan of hip hop in general, but especially 90s hip hop, like the nostalgia just hits in that sweet spot, and the music really plays into some of the key scenes, like when they first meet Lily, and you're hearing Nas, Whose World Is This, playing in the background, and the way that the beat drops when you're panning into Lily, and you're like, wow, who's this goddess on screen? And you can see that Malcolm is just hypnotized by her and hypnotized by the beat, and it's just scenes like that with the music, like it gets me every single time. So I loved it. From an audio perspective, it was very, very pleasurable.
Yeah. Does this movie make you want to either sell dope or do some dope?
It makes me want to do dope so I can sell dope in a very dope way.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. That's all I wanted to know. I would fucking freak out if I ever had someone snuck a bunch, like that much dope in my bag. Holy shit, that's a lot.
Oh, I'm running to the cops. Like 100%. I'm going to run to the cops, not think about what could happen to me. Just be like, man, I cannot be anywhere with all this dope. And
but that neighborhood's so rough, right? Like, I was just thinking, like, they live in a place where you could be ordering fast food, someone can just shoot you. They show that scene play out, and it's crazy because the way it's shot is like, this is a comedy bit, but I'm like, that's fucking scary. But also there are cops or security guards with guns and dogs like at the front of the school to check every student coming in, and it's like, wow, like they live in a really rough neighborhood. And the reason I bring that up is because like Malcolm does a thing. It's just like the friends are saying that you should just go to the cops and bring all this dope to them. And he's just like, are you crazy? 3 black people bringing a bunch of dope to cops? What do you think they'll do to us? And I feel like you couldn't actually execute on that.
Yeah. And again, like it just speaks to what's happening in 2020 and 2021. Like we talk about defunding the police and why is that a huge topic? Well, it plays out in this movie, but in a very kind of funny way, right? Like it's like they're talking about bringing these drugs to the cops, which any sane person would do.
Yeah.
But they're like, are you freaking nuts? Like, and you're laughing along with them. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, ha ha ha. Why would you do that? But then you kind of think about it, you're like, oh, that kind of sucks that you actually can't rely on.
You can't actually do that.
On law enforcement to help you in that kind of situation. So it's really great to be able to kind of absorb. I think this is what art should be like. Like it's just gives you a chance to laugh and to cry and to just feel something, but then to think about it within your own kind of lens and context. And how does that, inform you or inform how you're going to navigate your own kind of world and your own kind of life after you've consumed such amazing art. So
yeah.
I might watch it again today. Who knows?
Well, with that, Stenley, could you rate and review this movie?
Yeah, well, if I had to give it a 90s kind of soundtrack rating, I would say it would be the #1 selling soundtrack on this week Billboard's charts. I would give it a whopping 10 out of 10. Go see this movie in theaters. Wait, no, not in theaters.
You can't. No.
Go watch that on Netflix. If you have a Netflix account, and who doesn't, like we said before,
Yep.
watch Dope. You're going to love it.
How many shots to the leg is this movie out of? Accidental shots to the leg.
Ooh, I'll take a solid 3 shots.
Yeah, that looked painful.
I still want to live after watching the movie.
Yeah, I saw it when that scene plays out where it's just like he punches the guy and then that guy accidentally shoots himself in the leg. I'm like, fuck, those are 2 bad things that just happened back to back.
So good. And I love kind of the early versions of the iPhone and how he's tracking the kids using the phone.
Oh my God. I was just like, I was mad because as someone who is formerly employed at some large corporation that might have, dealt with those devices before, I was just like, why don't you just turn that feature off, you dummy? Like, that's just like, you don't have to throw away your phone. You can just turn it off.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. So good.
But it is funny. Yeah. The guy has his iPad. He's just like, ding, 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 ding.
And it's like you're laughing along, but he's pointing this massive gun in people's faces on this bus. He's like, "Is this yours? Is this my phone?" Like, he's just kind of like, again, like just like the comedy was really well written in this movie.
Definitely. All right, Stenley. Well, that is Dope of 2015. What a fun, incredible movie, and what a fun, incredible show. Just having you around. Do you have any plugs for the people at home?
Well, a friend of mine a few months ago, I think around March when the pandemic first began, was telling me, "Hey, Stan, you know what we should do? We should get into the studio and start writing music." And we did, and we have a song out. So you can check out SP by SP Music. That's the letter S, the letter P, the letter X, letter S, the letter P. You'll find us on Instagram. We have one song out. It's so good, I forget what it's called. So check out SP by SP on Instagram. And I launched a podcast for work. So if you are a parent, I did. Yep.
Oh my God.
By the Talking Tongue. So if you are a future university applicant, or if you're a parent listening and you want to learn more about university, check out the Talking Raven, also available on Spotify and Apple Pod and wherever you get your podcast.
Sounds like you kind of ripped off the name of Talking Tongue a little bit. You took the Talking and you replaced Tongue with Raven, and there's no alliteration there. So it sounds
we did a lot of research and a lot of crowdsourcing, and we recognize that the word talking really kind of evokes a certain feeling of, oh, maybe a conversation is going to be had on this particular show. So and people are raving about it. So we say, you know what, Talking Raven works.
Good. Is it talking or talking? Because this is Talking Tongue.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a Malcolm, so it's talking. The Talking Raven.
Okay,
yes.
So it's completely different than this show. Okay, good. You have creative rights to that word. It's fine. I'm not mad about it. How exciting. I'll have to talk to you about that afterwards. Until then, of course, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Check out all the fantastic shows in there. And we'll see you next week on another episode of Talking Tongue. Until then, Stenley has a world famous catchphrase.
In the words of Stanley P, keep it real unless you're fake.
Bye, everyone.